Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I am telling you 10 things I wish that I knew before I started medical school. This video was requested and I was like, this is such a great idea because I feel like I've got a lot of knowledge and I've learned a lot of things the hard way. And so I might as well share that with you guys, aspiring medics, or if you're already at medical school, just some things that would have been helpful to know beforehand. The first thing I wish I knew before starting medical school was that you're going to come very, very close to failing. If not, you will fail. And that's because the workload is so unbelievably intense. Whenever you hear medicine, you hear people talk about how intense the workload is going to be, but it doesn't quite sink in until you start. The workload is intense not because of the level of difficulty, because by now you've survived A-level maths, chemistry and biology. You can kind of take on the world. It's not that it's the difficulty, it's rather that there's such a vast amount of content and at times it feels physically impossible to keep up. I don't say this to scare you, but I say this to prepare yourself for the failure. Failure is a part of life, and it's something that if you've not experienced yet, you're going to face in your first year of medical school. The way grades would come to you so naturally, the way top marks would be a norm to you, that's not how it's going to be at medical school, and that is okay. If you're studying at medical school in the UK, one good thing to know beforehand is that medical school is a pass-fail system. So you won't get a 2-1, a first, or a 2-2. You will literally just get a pass or a fail. So whether you pass with 99 out of 100 or whether you pass with 60 out of 100, you've still passed. And growing up, I had the mentality that if it wasn't perfection, it wasn't good enough. But that really has to go when you start medical school, because the amount of work that's going to be thrown your way, you need to prepare yourself to have those days where it's going to be too much, to have those moments where you're going to get results back and they're not going to be as amazing as you would want them to be. The sooner you can come to terms with failure as a part of learning, the easier it will be to go with the flow when you do face those setbacks. The second thing I wish I knew before starting medical school is that you might think you're smart, but I promise you there are crazy smart people who you're going to meet at medical school, and it's going to make you reevaluate what you thought you knew. Again, I don't say this to scare you, but just to let you know, you might be smart in your school or the area that you're coming from, but especially if you're going to a school which has a lot of international students, the caliber of academia that some of these kids have is crazy. The caliber of extracurricular activity and time management that some of these kids have is crazy. And what I will say to you about this is, don't use it to discourage you, use it to inspire you. There are people who are 10 times smarter than you. Use it to inspire you. Some of my best friends at uni are crazy smart. Having them as my friends is almost like, okay, they can motivate me, they can push me. When they do something amazing, when they get an internship, or when they're succeeding extracurricularly, or when they're getting great grades or great test scores, I'm happy for them, and I use that as like I want to be like that. I want to aspire to be at your level. I want to aspire to get to the stage where I can be getting grades like that too, but I can be getting opportunities like that too. And so it very much depends on your mindset going into it. People are going to be a billion times smarter than you, but use it as encouragement. Don't use it to discourage yourself. The third thing I wish I knew before starting medical school is that common sense is going to be very useful. And it kind of sounds self-explanatory, but when you're in secondary school, when you're in sixth form, when teachers explain things to you, they tend to break it down step by step. In uni, what tends to happen in lectures is they show you step 1 and they show you step 8, and they assume that in your head you're going to figure out step 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 and 7. That is not always explicit to you, but you kind of just have to use common sense to fill in those gaps that aren't spelled out to you. If you're given a task to do, if you're given an essay to write, if you're given something to do, of course look for framework and look for advice, but when you can't find it, your common sense is the best thing to use. Things won't always be handed to you. Things won't always be explicitly clear where to find things or how to do things, but use your common sense to do it, and 9 times out of 10, it will get the job done. The fourth thing I wish I knew before going into medical school, and this is a big one, is don't take all the advice that you receive. So many people will give you advice on what they know how to do this, how to do that. Oh, you should do this way, you should do this that way. Don't take all the advice you receive. I'm not saying people have bad intentions, but if you know how your mind works and if you know what works for you, don't switch up just because everyone else is doing something. For example, everyone uses Anki. I do not use Anki. I am a proud Anki hater, and I'm going to do a video on Anki in a few weeks' time. But everyone around me is using Anki, but I knew that Anki is not a platform that worked for me, so I don't use Anki. Similarly, let's say you have a revision technique. Let's say you only do blurting. Blurting is what got you through GCSEs, it got you through A levels, and now it's got you into medical school. Don't suddenly change your method of studying just because everyone around you isn't doing what you're doing, because it can still work. I am a person, I swear by flashcards. I've never done mind maps in my life. And not to say those methods don't work, but they don't work for me. Loads of people in medical school specifically have advised me, oh my god, you need to do mind maps, you need to do blurting. I found personally that doesn't work for me, so I'm not going to change my way of studying just because everyone is giving me that advice. So when people do give you advice in med school, do take it with a pinch of salt. I've had some incredible advice from second years that have really helped me so much. A second year advised me to get a whiteboard and literally saved my life. So there's some advice that you should take, but don't take all the advice you're given because not all of it is applicable to you. The fifth thing I wish I knew before starting medical school is that you can never study too much. You can never study too much. You will always not be studying enough, and that's something you have to come to terms with. You could study every second of every single day and it still would not be enough, and that's fine. Like, you just have to do what you can and make time to study, even when it's quite literally the last thing you'd want to do. I remember when I started medical school and I started doing my study with me's, I think I did a 12-hour study with me in like October or November time, and everyone around me was very surprised. People who weren't doing med were very surprised because they were like, it's only October, why are you studying so intently? I wish I had started doing that from September. All the free time I've had, all the pockets between lectures when you kind of think, oh yeah, I'll just use this time to chat. I wish I had been studying, because you can literally never study enough. There is so much content. You are inundated with things to learn, and there is always more to learn. You never run out of things to study. You never run out of things to quiz yourself on. So my advice would be, use every single second that you can find to study. And of course, you've got to find a balance. But let's just say you're on the train on the way home from school, or you're on a bus on the way home from school. You can be going through flashcards on the train. You can be that 5 minutes between lectures. You can be getting your notes ready for the second lecture so that you're more prepared to start. Every second that you find you have time and you're in a mindset to study, use it. This kind of ties into the sixth thing I wish I knew before medical school, is that get ahead as much as you can. The night before a day at uni, look through your lectures, skim through the PowerPoints. If needs be, look at some things that you're not sure on, write them down in your notes to pay extra attention to during the lecture. If possible, even do some of your notes before the lecture, because lectures at uni go so fast. I've been in a lecture with 105 slides and it was an hour-long lecture. So that's 60 minutes, 105 slides. What do you think is going to happen in the lecture? The lecture is going to whiz through. Skip this slide, go through it in your own time. Skip this slide, go through it in your own time. A slide with a paragraph on, they're going to look at for 5 seconds and then move on. If you've gone through that lecture the night before and you've been able to pick through some key slides you need to pay attention to, you've managed to do a little bit of notes. I'm not saying spend 3 hours before each lecture, but just 5-10 minutes before every lecture. If you have 5 lectures the next day, just spend about an hour going through all 5 of those lectures, key points that you want to make sure you're paying attention to in the lecture, so that when the lecture comes and it's very fast paced and you're struggling to keep up, you would already have that base knowledge there, so that you can just add to it in your notes. Similarly to that, after the lecture, make sure you then go back and review your notes, any spots that you missed out, any topics that you flagged in the lecture that you were going to watch a video about after or research separately after. Make sure you then go through that post lecture. If you leave it for 5 months later, you're not going to remember the lecture and you're not going to remember what you missed out. But if you go through it a few days after, you're going to remember, oh, slide 34, I had no idea what he was going on about. go pull up a YouTube video, study that topic, and then add it into your notes so that when it comes to revising, your whole lecture has been sorted through, you know what you're doing. The seventh thing I wish I knew before starting med school is that it's very different to A-level in terms of the fact that you have to learn to understand, not learn to memorize, because all the information you learn is going to help you treat human beings, not pass a mark scheme. And that's the difference between medicine and A-levels. A-levels, there are some things that you just had to know. You didn't have to know why, you didn't have to understand why, you just had to know. Whereas when you're studying medicine, you have to understand that you are studying to treat human beings. You are studying to heal the human body. So when there's something you don't understand, that could be the difference between you saving a patient's life versus making a situation 10 times worse. The stakes are a lot higher with medical school because you're studying to pass the exam, but then yes, you're also studying to treat human beings, and that's the major difference. So when you study something, you have to understand it rather than memorize it. But when you understand it, then you'll memorize it. But if you memorize it, you might not necessarily understand it. And that's the differentiation. So my advice would be, and what I wish I had been doing from the very beginning, is studying to understand concepts and make sense of things rather than just studying to memorize. The eighth thing I wish I knew before I started medical school, and I did do this, but I didn't do it very well, is keep a calendar. When you join societies, when you have lectures, when you're meeting up with friends, all these things can get very muddled, right? Keep a calendar. Just block off periods of time when you know you're going to be doing certain things. I started doing this and it was so helpful for me when I was doing long periods of studying, because if you guys know, I do long periods of studying. I'd block off like 12 hours on a Saturday, then Sunday I'd block off church, I'd do time to cook, I'd do a call with my family, then lectures. I'd have athletics in the evenings, I've had church in the evenings, I'd have a call with my friend from school in the evenings. You just schedule these things in and it helps you keep track of when things need to be done and what needs to be done, especially with things like assignments, or if you have a special dissection day, or if there's a particular tutorial and you need to get a worksheet done. Just put it into your calendar, because having everything all together in one is such a good idea. If your uni allows this, you can export your uni calendar onto Google Calendar or Notion Calendar or even the Apple Calendar. Look into this at your specific uni. King's does allow this. So I exported my King's timetable with all my lectures and tutorials and workshops and dissections onto my Notion calendar and my Google calendar so I could have it across different sites. The ninth thing I wish I knew, and I really wish I knew this, is you don't need to attend every single lecture. I will hold my hands up. I attended about 98% of lectures. I think I only missed a handful of lectures and that was near the end. You don't need to attend every single lecture, especially if they're recorded. Some lecturers you will find just don't quite teach the way you'd want them to. Some lecturers read off the PowerPoint slides. Some lecturers don't really explain the way you want them to explain, and that's okay because everyone teaches different and everyone learns different. But when you highlight that you have a lecturer and maybe they go too fast and you can never take notes, or maybe they go too slow and actually you'd be a lot more efficient doing their lecture afterwards, don't go to the lecture. Just watch it afterwards, go through it at your own time, because if you're going to be more efficient, then don't go to the lecture. If it's a 9 a.m. and you know that if you don't go, you'll end up sleeping until 1 p.m. and do nothing with your day, then go to the lecture. But if it's like you've had a 9 to 1, and let's say you have a lunch break, and then you have a 2 to 4, and let's say the lecturer is just not really going to explain it the way in which you want to be taught, don't bother going to that 2 to 4. Have your lunch, go and sit in the library till about 5 p.m. and get a good amount of study time in, instead of sitting in that lecture, wasting time, going and playing games, talking with your friends, doing things that are a waste of your time, quite frankly. Because I'll hold my hands up, I did that a lot. I would go to lectures because I felt like I had to go to every single lecture. I would sit in the lecture, not understand a word that was being said, just sit there, waste my time, talk with my friends and come home. If you are in a lecture and you realize, oh my God, I'm not taking anything in, this is a waste of my time, pull up your notes, pull up your flashcards, pull up an old lecture and start studying in that lecture. The lecturer isn't seeing what you're doing. No one is seeing what you're doing. So if you're in a lecture and it's not resonating with you, watch another lecture at the same time. Put your AirPods in, put the subtitles on, get up the transcript for a lecture and make your notes for another lecture at the same time, because the time that you have, you really need to maximize on it. So Don't waste your time and don't go to lectures if they're not important for you. If they are important for you and you find yourself there, make sure you're making the most of it. And the 10th thing and final thing I wish I knew before starting medical school. Oh my goodness, if I could go back to myself, I'd literally shake myself and be like, do this. I wish I was more selfish. And some of you might be thinking, whoa, medicine, selfish? Let me explain this to you. There are some people at med school who have wanted to be doctors since they were 6 years old. They have lived their whole lives dedicated to this. They have grown up with a privilege and a position where they've had resources, they've had opportunities, and they're pretty confident in their capabilities already. These are the people who will volunteer first, who will always put themselves out there, who will always ask questions, who will hold up a tutorial for 20 minutes to make sure that they understand something. And those people are the people you want to be like. You want to be that person who always puts themselves first, who always volunteers. If there's ever an opportunity to demonstrate a skill, especially a clinical skill, a practical skill, take it. Even if you don't know what you're doing, say, I'd really love to do this, but I'm not 100% sure. Could you guide me through the steps of how to do this? Because these opportunities are what will build your confidence when you do go on to talk to patients, and they will build your confidence when you're tested on these skills. One thing I regret so much is in dissection, I would let myself get pushed about so much because I had really loud, confident, aspiring people who would always take charge in a dissection. And I was on the meeker side. I was on the more, oh, I don't want to intrude. Oh, I'll let other people have their turn. And I wish that I had been on the jump straight away. I want to do it. I want to do it. Can I do it? I wish I had been a lot more outspoken, and I wish I had been a lot more selfish. And that is what I will say to you. Be selfish. It is your education. And when you are a doctor, it is you and the patient. It's not you and your cohort and the patient. It is you and the patient. Of course, you work in a team, but primarily when it comes down to it and you're faced with a decision, it's you making that decision. So every opportunity you have to be in a better position moving forward, take the opportunity. And those are the 10 things I wish I knew before medical school. I may do a video very similar to this about what I wish I knew before going to uni. So if you would like that, also let me know what you would like advice on uni-wise in terms of content, studying, accommodation, travel, anything like that. Just drop me a comment. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions or need any advice at all, just let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys very soon with another video. Like, comment, share and subscribe, and have a wonderful rest of your week.